is that a particular challenge of Milton Keynes because the whole of the shopping area is an enclosed space?
Yeah. It's like a bubble, isn't it? I was in there yesterday afternoon, and it's, well, like all shopping malls, I suppose. The point is that you can park your car, and once you're inside, you're in another world, and nothing could be further from what we normally do, I suppose. And trying to persuade people to leave that very controlled environment and do something else is proving a challenge. So any ideas will be very gratefully received. But I think it's very very interesting the way Milton Keynes has been constructed without that kind of public space. And when you think about other towns, there are lots of new developments now that are built without those assembly places, and where there are, for example, here there's the hub, the quarter where you go and eat. If you want to eat, you go there. If you want to shop, you go to the shopping centre. If you want to, I suppose there's, the sporting kind of leisure bit over by Escape and so on. But it's as if you make a special journey for each of those things, rather than a more sort of traditional town planning approach, which is that everything is within reach and everything can be got to on foot. And Milton Keynes hasn't been designed with that in mind. It's very much designed with the idea that it's very convenient. You can get in your car and park your car close to other things. Well, I live in Cambridge, and actually it's deeply inconvenient to have a car. I don't even have a car anymore, because having a car and trying to get into town is hopeless. So,
but what we also found in Liverpool, which we were talking earlier about the fact that the Elephant couldn't have been done there because the streets are too narrow and hilly and is we kind of knew that thousands and thousands and thousands of people would come to the show, as they did, and we knew that for the finale we needed a huge gathering space, and we searched the city centre. And what you have to understand when you're doing these shows which are on the move is it's a bit like playing three-dimensional chess. You have to second-guess the numbers in the audience, the speed of the thing moving, what happens if more people, if you have 50,000 people, it moves at one speed. If it's 500,000 people, it's moving at a different speed. But what we absolutely knew was that there would be loads of people for the finale, and there is no space in Liverpool. There are little squares, there's the docks at the front, which they didn't want to close the dual carriageway again, because we'd already made them close it once. There were lots of difficulties about how to create the finale, and a suggestion from Liverpool was that it should end at the Mersey Tunnel. I don't know if any of you know the geography of Liverpool, but Mersey Tunnel takes you through to Birkenhead. And what there was at the entrance to the Mersey Tunnel was a kind of a cadence, if you like, of ring roads all coming together to feed the traffic through the tunnel. And Francois and I stood there one day on one of our sort of many site visits, and he said, well, we can do the finale here, the spider can disappear down the tunnel, but Helen, you have to get rid of the roundabout. Now, this roundabout... But why do you all laugh? Because it's so obvious.
It's already roundabout.
It's so obvious that, but the roundabout was, maybe 30 years old. It wasn't just a roundabout. It had mature trees and planting and, it was huge. It was a roundabout so we did. We got rid of the roundabout, and what was a big argument, all about, why and how and blah and who pays, and of course we said we'll pay for it and we'll pay to put it back. And we did, and we created a space that could happily accommodate, this is doing wonders for your sound, that could happily accommodate 50 or 60,000 people. And what the most interesting thing about this story is that the city realised that it was lacking a gathering space. And although we paid to have it put back, they never have. They have put back a demountable structure, which is around about most of the time. But when they want to do a big rock concert or something, they can take the structure out and they have the space. And just the legacy of that show was not, well, it is partly in the thousands of people who saw it and had a fantastic time, and the imagery and the economic impact and all of those kind of things. But for me, it's the roundabout, or the non-roundabout, that actually they have recognised the need to create the space that was lacking through the arrival of this funny show.
So obviously what we should have done is taken out one of your roundabouts.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? And turned it into a lovely public gathering.
I mean, it is extraordinary. Just, I think one of the comments from lots of people working in Milton Keynes is where are all the people, and because they're indoors, and it does pose a particular marketing challenge. And I know this is a ticketed event rather than a kind of free outdoor event. Has that been particularly challenging for you, Nicky?
Carries on being particularly challenging. It's really difficult, I think. Well, we've done lots of shows now, and enough people has never been our problem.
Too many people.
We've had too many people many, many times, and I think it's because of that disruptive element that we, normally we're much more irritating to the sort of daily rhythm, and in this case we haven't been, and perhaps that's part of the issue. So,
But what's hard is to know. I walk around the town all the time thinking, where else should we have put it? But what you have to imagine is that Fred and his colleagues were here 3 weeks ago, a month ago, unloading 9 articulated trucks full of kit, which were coming in waves, 3 one day, 3, well, in theory, 3 one day, 3 the next day, 3 the next day. The stuff was all offloaded into the other half of the car park. It was then assembled in the car park that we are. So while I might look at a place in the shopping centre and think, oh, it should be there in this lovely Middleton Hall, it should be indoors, or it should be where people are going, you couldn't do it. It's technically not possible to get the stuff through the doors, to offload the trucks. It's, to break the tiling or, whatever one might be doing. It's not possible. So I haven't found the place yet, which is better than the place we are, but it's proving such a huge challenge in terms of audiences.
Would anyone like to ask questions of the panel before we wrap it up?
Has the carousel been to any other places beside its home in Sennar?
The first time he was in Sennar, and we were to Madrid, Portimao in Portugal, Anvers in Belgium, Milton Keynes today, and normally Paris next time. Maybe London.
I'm quite interested in why this particular piece from the French team, and whether it was driven by the festival, whether it was driven by the relationship with Artichoke and Artichoke wanting this particular piece, or whether it came from discussions with the French team and them suggesting this particular piece, or whether it's because Sennar is quite similar to Milton Keynes. And I'm just quite interested in how that sort of decision-making sort of came about, really.
It's yours.
Well, I have to give credit to our creative producer Bill G for a lot of this, and Bill has been working on the festival for a couple of months and various smaller projects emerging, and he phoned me up very excited one day and said, I have this amazing project that I think would be fantastic, but it's virtually impossible to bring it without finding a partner that would deliver it, and I know the partners that could deliver it, and these are the partners that could deliver it. So we had a meeting, but the genesis of the festival was very much about looking at the city and the city's unique architecture, and of course roundabouts, grid systems fell into place, and also the point structure itself, that pyramid structure, and Bill had seen the carousel in I think in Madrid, and something just clicked in terms of the connectivity between the squares and the round and the pyramidal structure, and he thought it would be a lovely kind of centrepiece, an extraordinary centrepiece to the festival, but we absolutely didn't have the budget or the production wherewithal to deliver that, and so he started a conversation with Artichoke, who obviously had a relationship with La Machine and Francois' work before, and we sat round a table and decided whether it was remotely feasible and that we should go and see it, and fortunately.
And partly it was possible because we also had a relationship with Sky Arts, who we've had a 2-year relationship with, and what they're very interested in is finding a way to bring public events, to bring arts events of a very popular type to a much wider audience, just as they try to do with their own television programming. So they were very interested in this, partly because of the continuation of the relationship that we'd had with La Machine, but also because they're interested in things which are very popular, but of an artistically a very high standard, and where they can enhance the experience for the public. So yesterday, for example, they enabled us to bring some other companies. There was a fantastic company from Barcelona yesterday who came and did ridiculous things with people's hair while they were waiting to go on the carousel. Really extraordinary and a huge draw. In a couple of weeks' time, there's going to be the Natural Theatre Company, who, again, a brilliant street theatre company who've performed all round the world, really, for the last 40 years. And so to be able to do things like that we couldn't normally do on our own, which enhance the experience for the public, is very valuable. So, the fact that that partnership existed, I suppose, was part of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just worth saying that the carousel actually, because it's such an extraordinarily large project, and it takes such a long time to put up, it will be here much longer than the festival. It runs to the 8th of August, so if you haven't yet had the chance to ride the carousel, you will have lots of chances to ride the carousel.
49 chances. In fact, if you come back every 6 minutes, you might do your block booking if you're really nice.
Thank you very much, unless there's any other burning questions.
I'd like to finish on.
Okay.
Now that you've had the Milton Keynes experience, if we're lucky enough to be able to persuade Monica to do festival too, and if we had the budget to commission anything you wanted to do, what would you want to do next time?
That's an impossible question.
There are lots of... I think doing the big moving shows, which is obviously what everybody loves, the elephant or the spider, the things that are really extraordinary, they are terribly, terribly hard. And they take an incredible toll on what is, Artichoke is a tiny little company, it's not the National Theatre. And although the pleasure that one gives to the audience, huge audiences, is the reason for doing it and is reward in itself, I think what we have to be careful about doing those things too often. We did a lovely event in Durham in November, where we took that ancient and extraordinary city with its incredible landscapes and buildings, history and heritage, and we installed, I think, maybe 30 something?
22, but one of them itself comprised 25 artworks.
Yeah, so a huge number of artworks which ranged from a 120-metre projection along the side of Durham Cathedral of the Lindisfarne Gospels, which obviously have their history there, commissioned soundtrack. We lit the rivers, we lit the bridges, we did an extraordinary show in the Botanics all over 4 days. And we did it in November, and Durham in November is kind of hideously cold and wet, but 80,000 people turned out in a town of maybe 30,000, and it was incredibly moving somehow to have taken a place and turned it into a playground in a way that nobody expected. And I think that those are the kind of things, getting to the essence of the place and making it feel different. That's what we like doing, and I guess you'd have to really think hard about Milton Keynes. It's a real challenge.
It's also quite a big city in terms of
the geography, but also the fact that the people live separate from the city centre, that the roads, that you have these sort of dual lane roads, and then you have a reservation, and then you have parking, and then you have another reservation, and then you have a pavement, and then you have the shops. That is a very hard thing to animate, because actually when you walk the street, or I drove the streets last night, I saw 3 people, because they're kind of all inside somewhere. Because the nature of our work is to get people to come and play outdoors, and that, how you do that, I think that would be a really interesting challenge, and very expensive, I fear.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.